before I do that, we had a little bit of interesting news today that's Kindred relevant, and I wanted to share it with you because I'm pretty proud of it. Kindred was named to a list of MIT's smartest 50 companies. And this is a very prestigious list. It's very hard to make it. But the thing that was distressing about it is that they have this map that they show of where all these companies are from. And there wasn't a single company on the list that was from Canada. Not a single one, which was a little surprising, of course, because we're from Vancouver. But they thought that we were from San Francisco because we have an office there, but we're not. We're from here. 3 years ago, the previous company that I founded, D-Wave, also made the list. And it was also the only company from Canada that was on the list at that time. So I've been trying to build the tech community in Vancouver for 25 years. And I find it super depressing that it seems to be so hard to generate world-changing 0 to 1 companies around here. You know, I think that I'm gonna just pitch this idea. Some of you may have seen me talk about this before, but we have this problem here that we don't think big enough. We've got all of the ingredients to create this massive, massive thing in Vancouver, and the spark is not being lit. So I implore you, if you're entrepreneurs, people who are thinking about what you want to do, think bigger, because we don't think big enough around here. Okay, so my previous company was D-Wave. I'll just show you a couple things. We built what are still the world's only quantum computers that you can buy. And the company, D-Wave, has been doing this. Thanks. I didn't really have much to do with it, but you know, so this is one of them. This is one of the processors. And a lot of interesting things happened to me over the years there. I got sent pajamas, a whole bunch of stuff. You know, there's lots of interesting things that happen when you build something like a quantum computer. But just as an aside, because I thought it was funny, one of the interesting things that's happened from the D-Wave story is there's this gigantic conspiracy that's arisen on the internet that goes like this. So D-Wave builds quantum computers. The way that they work, if you know how this works, is one of the interpretations is that you tap into these parallel universes and they do computations. Sounds really weird. But what's happened is this idea has been hijacked to describe something called the Mandela effect, which is this thing where the past changes. So think about something you know to be true from the past. And then imagine you went out on the internet and you can't find it at all. It's not there. It doesn't match with your experience. So these people think that D-Wave is responsible, and CERN. And of course, the quantum key to the abyss factors into it somehow. I'm not exactly sure how. Okay, so that's just D-Wave. I did that for about 15 years. It was a lot of fun. A big science project that we turned into a commercial entity. That was a warm-up for Kindred. So Kindred is much, much, much more ambitious than D-Wave. And what Kindred is trying to do is build real AI. So what you've heard about AI is not what we mean by AI. What we mean by AI is a software system that can do literally anything that a human can do. Literally anything. And obviously, computers are better at things than people in lots of different ways. So now imagine, not only can they do everything that a human can do, but they can do everything that the best human at any task could do better than them. So imagine there was the mental Olympics of the 100-meter dash, and Usain Bolt is the fastest person. Now imagine that's some kind of a mental thing, like writing a novel or writing whatever. Imagine now that the thing is so much faster than Usain Bolt, like for example, it's a spaceship, yeah? It's still doing the same thing, but it's doing it so much better because we're limited, because we're people. So what Kindred is trying to do is solve this problem. How do you build machines that are better than people at everything? Now, there's a mental block that we have here when we think about this. Because when you think about that, one of your questions might be, for example, what are the applications of this? So imagine this. Imagine for $10, let's say, I could build a machine, like a little robot that had fingers and eyes and all that. And it could do your job better than you, no matter what it is. And I could sell that to your employer for, say, $15 and make a profit. instead of having to pay you $100,000 a year. Now imagine that was true for every single job. So that's what we're talking about here, is a complete and utter transformative change that of the likes of which has never been seen before in the history of humanity, making the Industrial Revolution look like a little tiny blip on the path that humans have taken from when we emerged from the ooze a few billion years ago. We are right on the verge of that transition now. So this guy, Rich Sutton, is one of the most famous people in the academic world of AI. And like many, when asked, when will this happen, he says things like this. 25% chance within 13 years of this thing that I'm talking about. You know, when you think about what you read on the news, you know, CNN, BuzzFeed, whatever, they're all kind of the same nowadays. Think about how unimportant that thing is that you're reading if this is true. Yeah? So what does this have to do with aliens? So Sam Harris, who I quite admire, is a very interesting guy, was reciting this parable at a TED Talk that he was giving, and it goes something like this. So, say I'm the President of the United States. So I receive this message from the heavens. So my microwave dish, my SETI dish, finally captures something. And what it says is, in 50 years, or 13 years, we're coming to your planet. You gotta be ready. Now just imagine what would happen if that happened. A super intelligent alien race beamed down a message to all of us Earthlings saying, we're coming July 13th, 2030, and boy, you better be ready because the mothership is landing right on the front lawn of the White House or wherever you wanted to land on that day. The amount of resources that would be marshaled to try to figure out what to do would encompass the whole world. AI is just like that. So when this thing that I'm talking about happens, it's going to be exactly the thing that you're thinking about those super intelligent AIs. So the one thing I can tell you is they're not going to be like us. So alien means, you know, different. These things that we're building are not going to be people. They might be really smart, they might be really good at all sorts of different things, but they're not going to be like us. They're going to be aliens. And they're going to be, I'm sorry to say, way smarter than every single person in this room in ways that we can't even comprehend. So this, of course, triggers a lot of alarm. One of the guys who talks about this is Elon, who says things like this, like, when you do this, beware. Because you think, just like the guy in the stories, that when you do this, you're going to put that little guy in a pentagram, and you're going to have your holy water out, and you're going to wave it at the thing, and by God, it's going to do exactly what you say, and not one thing more, but it never works out that way. So this is an attitude that some are having, this emerging alarmism about the way this is going to go. But these words, demons, doesn't capture the essence of what's happening here. I don't know if any of you are turn-of-the-century weird fiction fans, but there's this guy named H.P. Lovecraft, who's a very famous American weird fiction author. And he espoused a view which is called cosmicism. And the essence of cosmicism is cosmic indifference. So what he was saying is basically, yes, there are these massively intelligent entities out there, but they're not good, they're not evil. They just don't give a shit about you even in the slightest. The same way that you don't care about an ant is the same way they're not going to care about you. And these things that we're summoning into the world now are not demons, they're not evil, but they're more like the Lovecraftian great old ones. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want. So this transition is really, really massively important for our entire species to navigate. And going back to that thing that Sam Harris was saying, nobody is paying attention. This thing is happening in the background while people bicker about politics and what what's going to be in the healthcare plan in the US, and underneath it all is this rising tsunami that, if we're not careful, is going to wipe us all out. So, on that pleasant note, we're hiring people to try to make something like this happen. Of course, this is a very difficult project, of course, and I'm kind of a little bit tongue-in-cheek about all this, like, how bad things are, because it's not really like that. Technology is a double-edged sword. Even something like this, it's agnostic. It depends who wields it. If you want to have a say in how all this goes down, you can't sit on the sidelines. And one of the ways that you can get involved and really change the world, like, a lot of people say, hey, join the Marines, you'll change the world or whatever. This opportunity that I'm talking about here in Vancouver is an opportunity for you to literally change the world, because the code that you write may be running in the brains of these things in 10 years. So this is a huge opportunity. I'm going to ask that anybody here who is a software engineer who's really good to talk to any one of these three folks who are sat at the back there, who are Suzanne founded Kindred, and Olivia and Paula are some of our key folks in Vancouver, or talk to me, and we'll have a conversation. By the way, I love Joseph's talk. It's true. Startup life can be very, very difficult, and you will fail many, many, many times before you succeed, just as a matter of course. Thanks.
Thank you, Jordy. First question over here.
Hi, Jody. My name is Naren, and I do really want to talk to you after this. So, you were talking about summoning the demon by Elon Musk, right? And there are a lot of other pioneers in this industry, such as Andrew Ng, who was a former chief scientist at Baidu. When he was asked the same question about summoning the demon, he said that his analogy was, it's more like thinking about overpopulation Mars. It was completely opposite. But when there are two pioneers in this industry who have different sets of opinions, how do you think that it's summoning the demon rather than the other way around?
Well, obviously people are going to have different opinions. You have to make up your mind yourself. So my general comment is that people always miss the future. It's this old thing that people are always saying things will go faster than they do in the short term and slower in the long term. But it's kind of, for me, it's an obvious thing. I mean, this isn't about, the only question is how long it will take. Again, I encourage you to watch that Sam Harris TED Talk if you're interested in this. But the point that he makes is that as long as certain things that are probably true hold, this will happen. Will progress continue? Maybe it won't. Maybe the Earth will get hit by a meteor and we'll all die. If progress continues, things that we're doing, intelligence isn't magical. It's not some kind of weird thing. It's a mechanical outcome of the way that our machines in our head work. We're going to figure it out eventually. And when we do, we're going to make it better in all sorts of interesting ways. And then you have this weird thing that happens, that because the machine is now able to act in its own self-interest, it can take the action to make its own thought process better. We can't do that. So we're stuck with what we were born with, more or less. We can learn things, but that's not the same as getting smarter. So these machines are going to be able to take control of the tools from which they are built to create better versions of themselves. And that, what's sometimes called an intelligence explosion, is something that biological creatures can't undergo. So I think it's an absolutely guaranteed outcome of progress. The only question is when, and I think Andrew would agree with that.
James.
Hey, great to have you out here. It was brilliant hearing you speak for the first time myself. I'm sure a lot of people here would agree with me. What is your goal to stop the world from turning into that of the Terminator?
Right. So there are things about the world that I can't stand, okay? And I think that's probably true for everybody here. You look at the world and there's all these things that you think, shit, what are things like that? So there's a couple of things you can do when you're faced with this. The one that I've found works for me is I'm like, screw that, I'm gonna do that myself, right? So back, 25 years ago, I was like, this is bullshit. Why aren't there any quantum computers? It's not that hard a problem. And so we changed the world by actually building them. And in this case, this is bullshit. Why don't we have AI? It's been what, 60 years since Turing? I mean, it's an absolute catastrophic failure of human resource allocation that we spend enormous amounts of money on things that are of no lasting consequence when the mechanism that generates all human flourishing is not understood. It doesn't make any sense. Every single thing that we will ever do and ever have done comes from this property. So when someday all cancer is cured, when polio was cured, when smallpox was cured, these things all came from people's minds. You can continue to do this stupid thing where everybody works on some particular use of the mind. Okay, well, let's go and do X. Let's go to Mars, like Elon says. That doesn't make any sense to me, because every single thing that you can think of comes from the same place. You got to think about what that is. So if you can figure out and bottle this thing that creates flourishing, that creates all of the good things that we think about, we know about the way that we are, that is the key. Do that. So, that's kind of the way that I think about the world. The world doesn't have the things it needs, and you can't just sit by and watch other people do it. So, it just won't happen otherwise. The way I think about this is if Kindred didn't exist, in 20 years, we're still having this conversation. Because the people who are trying to do AI are going to get sidetracked into making a lot of money, doing all sorts of bullshit that doesn't matter. So what I want to do is make sure that when we do this, we're solving the real problem, and we don't get sidetracked, and we don't go down paths that are going to make us a lot of money just because they're, some short-term thing. We do it because we understand the civilization-changing importance of accomplishing this task. So, that's the way I think about things. Things are bullshit. They're not the way they should be. Change it yourself, or else it won't get changed.
Last question is going to go to Dave if no one raises their hand. No repeat questions. Oh, okay, it's going to, Joseph, make this good. Pressure's on.
I don't get the impression you struggle at night. I think you're pretty clear in what you're set out to do. It's incredible passion. Quick question for you. So, simple mind of mine, I understand AI, what it can do for us 10 years from now. I get excited about it. Just share, the applications that we can think of. EQ, do you ever envision AI getting a place where we can actually have emotional intelligence, or can actually impact, influence, manipulate, or even help on the emotional level?
Absolutely, no question. By the way, I really liked your talk. It was really good. No, I'm serious. People don't talk about this enough. It's always like roses and fun, but entrepreneurship isn't about roses and fun. It's about getting your soul crushed over and over and over again. And the people who succeed are the ones who keep getting up. It's like that Rocky thing, I'm not going to try to do it, but that's thing. Yeah. So no, my view is that if it's a thing that you can measure, it's a thing you can improve. I think that being good with people. So we were talking with some of our technical people the other day, and one of them said this very funny thing. I'm going to try to remember what he said. He said, language is a way that we use other people as tools to achieve our goals. So it's really deep, right? So we don't usually think about language that way, but when I say something, I'm trying to use you as a tool to get something I want. So in this case, we're hiring software engineers. This is the main thing that I'm trying to get. So I'm trying to use you as tools to satisfy this need of mine. Now, it's a little bit weird to think of things that way, but if you're building an AI and you go and you try to figure out what is language for, language is this thing that is a way to use the people around you to get what you want, which is almost, it's a little sociopathic when you think of it that way, but it's almost a definition of emotional intelligence, is that if you are so tuned in to the responses or how a person will respond to the message that you provide to them, not only your words, but your language and how you act and what you buy and what you wear and all that, that you can always predict that the outcome will be the thing that you want, you're going to be very, very successful. And say politicians are like this. You know, sometimes you see people and you think these people are just like, man, that guy's got charisma. Like I met Bill Clinton once and he was like, holy shit, I've never seen this before. It's like there's sparks flying off this guy. What was it? You know, he's just got something. And I think that, that's a thing that you can measure, and it's a thing you can improve. And I think that it's going to be a part of AI in the future. Not only this kind of idea of like super rational, but also super good at getting what they want. And that's not a bad thing, right? As long as what they want is something good. Like for example, if the AI is programmed to want to make you happy, say, you might imagine that it will do whatever it can do to achieve that objective, which might mean this sort of thing, you know, giving what you really need when you need it.
What a beautifully thoughtful question to end the night. Dave, you're gonna have to bother Jordy. I'm sure.
Hi, my name is Sabrina Wallace, and my parents were both part of Space Force in 1969. Just happened to have a pretty crystal in a similar shape. Now, a lot of people like to say stuff. They don't necessarily like to come up and help folks understand things that are difficult to understand. Because, you know, everybody's busy right now preparing for drone warfare. Electromagnetic drone warfare. We did it in Iraq in 1994, and, you know, the country's going to war one way or another. Whether or not it's going to be, you know, our own people or something else. We have a serious learning deficiency in the United States. Whether or not it was engineered and designed, I'm going to let other people talk about that. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you exactly what it is that you need to explain to your own children so that we can avoid the Mao-style revolution I'm pretty sure is what they're actually getting at. And we're going to do that with education. So in getting started, who am I? My name is Sabrina Wallace. I am a child of an OSS family. And my family members are involved in black projects, SAPs, Special Access Projects. So I am a BAER bloodline. And my grandfather is Bernard Heinrich Scheer. And that name is, he married Helen Harding. And Helen Harding is directly related to Alpheus Levi. My father was Stephen Garland Davis. My mother is Lynn Jean Scheer. They are both secret Sempra Supra in 1969 working on Project Salus. I am a modified child due to the Menninger Foundation experimentation for human augmentation. Now, all that means is that I have scars that most people don't have for John von Neumann architecture. It's not brain to machine interface. It's body machine interface. That's impossible, and it sounds what again? Hang in there. So here's the wedding list of my parents. Okay. Here are the flight manifests out of Edgewood Arsenal from my great uncle, 6570th Army Chemical Corps, Dietrich to where? Texas, New York, North Korea. Just one's not good enough. Okay, let me hold it still for you. Okay? Uncle Bobby here was involved with the Mothman projects and building vehicles for the Men in Black. Now, being interfaced with John von Neumann's scars is right under here. I see one there. And of course, I'm older now, but that's your heart. Okay? So this is body machine interface with an underground database called Nick-Berlanga, which is IBM. So in my German class in high school, I spelled it wrong. ʟɪᴠᴇ. Right there. Okay? Why does that matter? Because if people say stuff like this, they had better be able to show you evidence, viable proof, or else I wouldn't listen to them. Okay? So here's a little more documentation, and then we're going to go ahead and get started with the intellectual discussion. Okay? So here's my family. And Garland here, my grandfather, Garland Davis, a World War II Marine, Fort Meade, NSA. And first he married Elizabeth Kraft, but I think something with the DNA didn't take, so then he married my mother. And here I am. Okay. So I worked for a company. That was my parents and my great uncle. Oh, sorry, I forgot one thing. My uncle, my great uncle, is where I live. See, he's always been one of my favorite people. He's a very kind man. Oh, come up over. This time I had everything sitting on that time. It's still anyway. Oh, okay. Oh. It's all done. Okay. So, I have a totally different story than my parents. I was never told anything, not a thing. So I grew up, and they told me nothing existed except what you could see. And I wanted to know, what is all this electromagnetic stuff? I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. I was born in 1979. And if you talked about the aura, everybody shoved you in a corner and demanded you join their group of weird. And I was always sitting there like, you do realize it's a body part. And they're like, no, you're stupid. You have to have a religion. I never realized what I was. I didn't know why people acted so stupid. As in, why would you lie about a body part? And yet, my parents were secret squirrels. That's 4 levels of law enforcement above anything that civilians see. And they're the SES, the Secret Elite, what? It's a Secret Elite Service. And that's pretty much it. Once you're there, that's secret law enforcement, right? No, you gotta go another level up. Okay, now you gotta go another level up. Are you serious, Sabrina? Yeah. You gotta go another level up. Right. So, I went ahead and went to work for a company out of Louisville, Kentucky called High Speed Access. And this is when they sent me my papers to work for them. You see right there, HSA Corp, and that was their old address. Why? This is the back end of Space Force. The actual back end of this country. I was one of 2 technicians to wire the state of Wisconsin from dial-up to broadband. So I'm very clear, L3 Harris, OC24, all the different ways that we handle with all sorts of intelligence, the NSA's PRISM program, all of it, including datagrams, packets. Network engineering is not the same as installing a cable modem. I have to work with the plant technician and the plant engineer. There's no one higher in a plant than that, and there was no one higher in that position than me, other than the one dude. Yeah, I was 19. So, I'm going to now show you my resume, so that as I continue here, and people have really had nothing to say to me because I'm exactly who I'm telling you I am. Full body. Pardon my dirty foot. Alright, so who's this chick? Let's see. IS Technical Services Professional, UW Whitewater, monitored campus network, various software packages including WhatsUp Gold and Nmaps, Network Vantage, HP OpenView, and brief interactions with Snort. Second shift operations included processing databases using PeopleSoft 8, updated code and routers and switches, worked with Visio to create fiber map of campus, initiated training for WhatsUp Gold. Well, of course, I was watching the whole state, they're like one little chunk. And when I went to the Network Operations Center in Louisville, boy did I want to build me one of those. Network consultant at Omni Resources in Green Bay, troubleshot OS conflicts with proprietary company, developed software, assisted with Cisco-based firewall stuff. Program Assistant 2, Department of Corrections, Wales, Wisconsin, installed and implemented in-house tracking program for Facility and Maintenance Department at Ethan Allen School for Boys. developed databases and access, and provided direction for Oracle implementation, troubleshot network and desktop issues within the departments. And the big job. October 1999 to May 2002, Charter Communications maintained an upgrade and troubleshot ISP network comprised of Cisco, 3Com, COM21, and Bain networks. Cat5 installed racks into head ends using power and cable management, responsible for weekly and monthly reports on bandwidth and circuit usage. Test, return cable modems, warranty or redeployment, traveled wide coverage area with responsibility for over 12,000 customers. Installed and maintained Cisco AS5300 servers for 7 separate dial-up pools. Monitored bandwidth and configured Cisco 7200 routers for bandwidth upgrades for 9,000 customers. And managed relations between cable operator and technicians in Plainfield, Illinois, while training new staff into technical and administrative positions in January 2001. Check out the software listing. And that's something. Permanently disabled in 2004 for being depressed by our own government. They closed the door and they said, "Are you still telepathic?" Boeing Black Projects, you know? Well, maybe you don't. You're about to find out. It's gonna be fun. So, where we're gonna go from here is we're gonna take a walk into the reality of today in 2022. And first, we're gonna have a little lesson from the past in my job. When I worked at UW Whitewater, she has a huge magnet underneath her and a fixed low Earth orbit satellite above her. And during the 70s, UW Whitewater had a bunch of software that was laying around for all those underground Nick Fairlonga IBM databases and such. They're underground. That's not a maybe. That's a certainty. It has to do with cooling more than anything. So again, as a kid, I'm growing up drawing things like this as they tested brain-brain interface for synthetic telepathy. And people have long since been lied to about that electromagnetic body part. And now we're at a crisis in our country, okay? This is from 1993, and this is how the Zigbee Bluetooth layouts go. This is what they look like, and that's exactly also how they process in telecommunications. And I'm going to show all of that to you here in a moment. But I wish to point out that they were testing on children. Yeah, that's what our government does. The parents, my parents, they just hand you over. That's their job. It's secret deployment for Synchron? Nope. Sorry, folks. No. Come back to that in just a second. Okay, so this journey for me really started there with being a kid, skin erection issues, which is really just me having control of all of my physiology, instead of listening to people around me tell me a story, tell me I'm dumb, run me off from being able to just feel my own body. And growing up from 1979, I have always found it bizarre, unusual, but I didn't know. I didn't realize that the heart of surveillance was the human biofield. And once I did, that was not okay. And my family made me go away for almost a decade because I wasn't allowed to say anything, ever, about chakras. It's the aura, who cares? In 2019, I had a run-in with a 911 called an ambulance. And on the phone, the guy in the ambulance, they said, get her to the helipad, take her to the lodge, get her to the farm. Now, I'm perfectly disabled by the government. It was the first time I called an ambulance. I wasn't prepared for that. And then I knew the military was watching me, and then I knew I'm a type asset by our Defense Intelligence Agency, via my parents, not via me. I'm over here working for Charter. But being able to feel radar and all these other electromagnetic signals, that's natural. The dog reacts the same way I do. They don't tell people that, unless you're in the Marine Corps for situational awareness. Now, Stingray and Dirtbox uses that same body part because it's electromagnetic. And back in 1953, the great uncle, he brought home a bunch of pictures and electromagnetic drones in 1953. And again, Mom and Dad, 1969, working on Project Salus, which controls every molecular state that we've got going on inside of the human body and out. Now, if you look at Salus now, they're going to tell you logistics and motion and basically everything internationally by molecule. And you go, that's impossible. That's because you don't know about the nano Internet of Things, the industrial Internet of Things, and that many of these machine interface systems, they were around in 1958. So, why? Why wouldn't you tell people? I mean, Edgewood Arsenal, we're testing on our own soldiers. Vietnam with my grandfather again. we've got electromagnetic drones in 1953. What's going on, right? So I get here to West Virginia, and the weirdness with the ambulance, and then it continues. More weirdness. Disappearing vehicles, yada yada. So I go down to the post office, and they have this question. Oh, we're planning for the county. I'm a homeowner, so I went ahead and went to the link. 6G, newest stuff right here in a town of 200 people, give or take. That seems weird. So that got me started researching 6G low pan. And having come from network engineering, and cybersecurity is one of my favorite places because I do math in binary. And I had to because I had to subnet the back end of Space Force's 24 dot addresses, which went on sale in Florida last year. Found that really interesting. But I figured that out too. So anyways, they when you are a network engineer and you're studying for your Cisco Certified Network Associate back in the day, you had to actually subnet in binary because we didn't have enough IP addresses. So yeah, I read binomial math. It's part of my job previously, okay? And so when it comes to cybersecurity, this is the kind of stuff in this first part is totally full of just such boring stuff like the OSI layers and the internet and stuff like that. So again, when you have to subnet and you have to insulate your customers and you're beholden to certain thousands of people, and they will nail you for being $300,000 a minute of loss. It's Charter Communications at the time. Then you have to know what you're doing, and you cannot be wrong. 300 grand a minute. Yeah, it's kind of pressure you're under in a job like that. Remember, there's only 2 people in the whole state that can handle that equipment, so you don't get to go on vacations. You basically got to babysit the whole thing. Okay. So network security, 6G low personal area network, and she is going to be using machine to machine, meaning no humans involved, in a ad hoc vehicle net, for example. Here's a striker, here's a drum. Now, we've got a couple problems. First of all, you can't interrupt that drum. Pentagon Statement 3000.09 asserts, over 11 years ago, and you can find this on CISR4.com, that the Pentagon in May this year, 2022, said, I think that our commanders on the ground need to be able to read the machine learning. Well, clearly the commander, my husband just got called, the commander did not attend the Artificial Intelligence Symposium on September 10th, 2020. If the commander would have, he would know that this was digital nervous system end-to-end with no humans involved. And I quote, Project Salus, what did we learn? Back to product delivery, give them the code. The Salus platform is used by Northcom with upgrades out to vendors. The game changer is the new neural prototype. Products are in development in about a year or so. What new neural prototype? Synchron, for starters. The JAIC, Joint Artificial Intelligence, what? Is a fielding organization, focuses on getting products out the door to people who are actually using it. Then they argued about whether it was going to be Amazon hybridized networking services or the Jedi, and then Microsoft and Amazon were like, let me have a government contract, okay? Then it got weirder for me, and as I'm listening, they said, data labeling services, and I'm like, that's a massive database. Data curation, and I'm thinking, on what? Vendor, customers, and I wrote, this is the Department of Defense? So for that, you gotta go over here to the beginning. And it says, the team of the JAIC, the Joint Artificial Intelligence Commission, the role of them is to make AI real and everyone can and should implement artificial intelligence in everything they do. Customers across the DoD. Who are your customers? Watch this. So, contracting tools is under the TradeWinds umbrella and Project Maven, and I quote, pod conduits using smart sensors, biosensors, wireless working group 802.15.5 wireless sensor network, specialized working group for the International Standards of Electronics and Engineering, Electronics and Electrical Engineering, and Project Maven uses Pathfinder and AI to watch you walk around and think inside your house in real-time analytics. And quote, MQ9 tethered to ground project. That's Department of Defense Directive 3000.09, which asserted again, that's why the commander was cranky. Because he's like, we can't hear these machines, we can't decode them by their nature, and we can't get a signal through. And I quote, over here at the JAIC, we need to get the ABMS system of the Air Force more cohesive with everything else, so we're going to create a digital nervous system. And to end, we need to redo at the DoD how to connect all the ABMS platforms. What do they control? Those ABMS platforms. Autonomous vehicles. You mean autonomous drones, tanks, regular strikers, all sorts of things. Planes? Check. What about anything else? Absolutely. Industrial Internet of Things and those VA nets, I got self-driving vehicles, and it's all LIDAR. But you thought that was only for the smart car. You should look into the RF engineering new way to save the day called the Green Road. It's not new. Specialized fiber along the interstate. When I was a kid, you just use a little bit of LiDAR and move the mountain aside. That's plasmonics. Again, special access projects from the National Institute of Science and Technology for the government. They pay people, this is no joke. The black projects, remember? Don't really pay 45 grand for a cold toilet seat. No, they don't. But you know what they do? The NIST hires these poor people to have a stack like this. They have to plug in 5 codes to hide where all the money goes. And the resource allocation, and the logistics, and the shipping, and then the reallocation of special access projects people, and then the reallocation of whoever is in charge of guarding them, tracking them, tracing them, or the Department of Defense kill list for special access projects modification. It gets out of control. And it's all open source and you can read about it and look it up on Google. So, back to our problem here. So you want to explain to me, what are these biosensors and what are you talking about, an MQ-9 Reaper drone is tethered to my DNA? What is going on? And by the way, DoD, who are your customers? Back to cybersecurity. Yeah. Artificial intelligence, first symposium. They told them all, get the humans out of the way. Sorry, I should have quoted that one too. Digital nervous system, end to end. Get these platforms connected. Get the humans out of the process. And into reasoning, enable the commander directly. Using data science, project cells, AI. Since I was a kid, machined interface into these quantum databases, Menninger Foundation. Now, why would they do that? So the new 6G personal area network is going to use your body to route the data. And before you think, oh no, they would tell us, this was done in 2005. That's what the wireless sensor network is. The biosensors are physically permanent and lifetime since 2005. And since 2005, the Zigbee and Bluetooth, which is what I complained about before when I said, hey man, I was just a kid. Why do Zigbee and Bluetooth and these biosensors look exactly like this? Because that's how it works. The International Standards for Electronics and Electrical Engineering uses a wide body area network, an 802.15.6 electronic standards for wireless working group, wide body area network, 802.15.6, and these are the 4 circles of their technical writing of what they're able to do through your body. And as always, we should have no more paraplegics and everything. They can make your hands move. They monitor your muscle tissue density. They can make you talk. They can, and they do right now. They monitor all these things wirelessly. How is that possible? If your body needs a wearable, or are they using your router, or are they using your switch? As in, well, are they using your router? Or are they using something else? I wanted to know, so I figured it out. With the newest cybersecurity here with the Striker, and she has to be machine to machine, just like the AI symposium at the DID said. The problem is that autonomy is an MQ-9 tethered to your DNA. And that DNA generates an electromagnetic body part, and nobody knows about that. They call it the aura, they call it all sorts of stuff. Oh, it's UFOs, we don't know. Yes, we do. Skunkworks, Raytheon, I just showed you the picture of the drone. People go to work for 40 plus years, get paid really, really well to keep you in the dark. Cybersecurity? Now try, national security. Oh, it's a UFO. No, it's Skunkworks, Raytheon, Lockheed. Everybody knows this. They're vendors. So what's all this stuff about psychic? They're called psionics. They're inherent in human tissue. So there was a book I used to have my students read when I taught about this as a kid. Here it is. In 1996, this book was written. It's called Integral Psychology. And inside you're going to find what I just said about telepathy, empathy, precognition, all of it. It's assigned to certain areas of the brain. And so are those sensor networks, down to the nanoscale. Then they put it on a proprietary software when they have to write for Zigbee and Bluetooth for those permanent, lifelong biosensors, 802.15.4. They are permanently affixed to your body. Where? The radio frequency sinks, there are 2 of them. They're going to pull all the electromagnetic energy, including the potentiation of minerals out of your biochemical bloodstream and transduce them. Because your electromagnetic field here that you thought was worthless, didn't exist, and everyone made fun of you, it actually transduces anything electromagnetically. Now we use software-defined radio, synthetic telepathy, just to agitate your skin a little, electromagnetically transduce in and out using your own body part. So how do you think they route computer data? The same way. The biosensors are literal magnets. They are fixed and adjusted with voltage. How? The wireless working group 802.15.5. And that's where your personal area network is. And your personal area network, as one more time, as you can see right here, the 6G low pan, may or may not have a body area network for security routing purposes. They're routing their data through your tissue, and I quote, and exchange digital information using the electrical conductivity of the human body as a data network. Body area network. So why don't we need a brain chip? Because you've been wireless for 6,000 years. Chinese medicine, the meridians, chakras, those are nodal points on your body. Electromagnetic telemetry. So the permanent biosensors were rolled out to everybody up here in 802.15.4, and they had to be permanent for Zigbee and Bluetooth, and that is who provides them. And then the wireless working group 802.15.5 takes care of all the different types of networks, then collects certain sensors from only certain bodies, open shortest path first routing protocols or security-driven reasons. But they also, when they create them with Zigbee and Bluetooth, they have to select muscle tissue type since 2008. They have to select heat so you don't swell to death. And so they were working on that until 2011 and 2013, and now they have about 13 different routing protocols, but only about 3 of them are built to protect you from the inflammation you incur by routing data through your body, which pulls minerals from your red blood cells to do so. Now it's a very minute level, so you don't notice, until too many companies are pulling on those statistics mathematically at the same time. And here's what that looks like. So right here in our little example, you may also want to note that these 2 RF sinks each have 5 nodes sticking out of them. I have them labeled right here as N1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for every little dot, you got 5 more. And they're all electromagnetically accessible through the cloud commercially with Zigbee and Bluetooth, which again is the IEEE 802.15.4, because if they weren't, they couldn't sell Zigbee and Bluetooth in the wall, they couldn't have using the Alexa that way, all these different things communicate with these sensor networks. And they're all driven by artificial intelligence databases, and they're all interlocked. So if you are wireless, and you're on the same wireless working group as your phone, which is IEEE 802.1, so in a wide personal area network, they're routing their data through you since 2005, and I can write an app for it, and then I can play with you like the same. Because these here are accessible since 2005. You think people haven't had enough time to buy synthetic telepathy wearables? It's all written. And if you didn't know how, writing an app is not hard. And they GitHub style it up with something called Structured Query Language Hive. What's SQL? It's the back end of Microsoft Apache and WordPress. And SQL Hive is the Hadoop loop style. So these people in the 90s, before this was rolled out in 2005, and by these people I mean my parents, secret squirrels, secret law enforcement, all this stuff, for who again? Space Force, yep, since 1969, signals intelligence, etc. Okay? So they have something called brain-brain interface. That's synthetic telepathy. And it's frequency-driven, peer-to-peer. Yeah, and they put on a helmet at their desk and they can cruise right through human tissue. Again, these things are monitored in real time. Now, as if that wasn't bad enough, they also have you by all the collection databases that you see listed here. CATV, all of your census stuff, radar, Doppler, and then the dirt boxes fly above your head and they communicate with the Stingray software, which is written for individual sheriff's departments depending on what type of databases they pay to subscribe to. So what you end up with is, here's 3 bodies walking along the road. Here's 2 bodies in a house. These bodies are now being utilized by that same driver because their bodies just happen to have the best security, and the machine-to-machine only uses those criterion. And they're listed. If you want to read through the machine learning, you can watch the order and then the heat and the separation of how many times they hit the node, how long they wait, 0.06 second delay. And it's the same in cybersecurity for everything. Hello, goodbye, intermittent wait state. And if you know anything about data hacking with packets for real and not just the software-defined enterprise cloud stuff, meaning you're mainly using software. I mean like the hardware side. They pull the whole packet apart down to the physical MAC address layer of your body. That's the problem we're in. That's why we're down to the wire here. They're wired into your bone marrow, and the way that 6G low-pan powers everything around them in the smart grid is when you walk, when you dance, and when you move. And that's another portion you can read about in 802.15.5 and wide body area networks 802.15.6. So again, the problem we run into is that when you got 3 bodies walking down the road, these 2 are now firing tons of signals. I told you, every node is 5 more. Now all these sensors are going crazy. This person here, the machine selects this person here. The DNA, your body. That is what creates the secure signal that the drone is using. It is propagating your DNA, and that is exactly how it works. So, in order to stop this drone from firing anything, you have to stop your DNA from propagating. Why would they do that? So, one last time. If you're unlucky enough and somebody gets hit with a bioweapon, this is electrical transduction over the open wireless working group of wide body area networks. So it doesn't matter what you believe in, and it never did. They did all that right here, UFOs, psychic, and then when they transduce humans and they do actual testing, which is wireless tissue engineering and wireless total piezoelectric control. Neural mitigation for behavioral modulation. We brain damage you in very subtle nanoscale areas of your brain to keep your behavior under control. Then we send you to people and tell you cognitive behavioral therapy will help you. In Kubernetes artificial intelligence programming, we know if you say it over and over again, you're going to do it. So why wouldn't they fix your epigenetic environment? Because they're not interested in that. Or they would have told people about this stuff a long time ago. They were studying transport, then they would test people for their psionic abilities into bioinformatics and genomics. Once your body could no longer transduce these electromagnetic signals because it's unnatural, and it's too much power in the bloodstream and the bone, and your vascular system going whoop, 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 eventually it weakens the veins, the arteries, the skin, and then you're in trouble. So are you encrypted? Did you get lost in the woods? Did you go underground? You think I'm kidding? So this is what they did. Nobody told the truth. Stingray and law enforcement was all wrapped up in 1972, so I was used by the police chief with my my machine body interface at the time, because they still had to have a SCSI cable with nanolipid or hydrogel so that they could go through and show it on a monitor. That's what all those scars are. So now everybody's wired since 2005 and available commercially. And again, the newest standard for cybersecurity is a wide body area network, which may or may not be involved in a personal area network, which may or may not involve your iPad and all the rest of it. The cybersecurity right here, February 2022 for the 6G low-pan digital ID routing. And the digital ID is made of your bone. That's right. Frequency and resonance of your what? Your DNA generated, electromagnetic, wirelessly accessible since 2005, commercially, body part they never let you know about. Your doctor won't admit to it. No one will talk about it, and if you try, they'll make fun of you. Why? Don't you want total control of humans and have them on remotes to make them do whatever you want? No free will, no ability to think. I told you, neural mitigation with subtle, what again? Behavioral modification. One more time. Vital signs, respiration, ECG monitoring, pH monitor, glucose, hearing aid. What are the non-medical uses of what they're putting through your bone? Because when they do, your red blood cells have to operate to the routing, and they will magnetically pull those minerals, pardon my shoulder, right out of your bloodstream. While video streaming, data file transfer, sports, 3D video, forgotten things, monitor. And then, one more time, you will be allowed to do 3 things. Entertainment applications, PORN, gaming, and social networking. Starting to see how the metaverse, electroceuticals, the Internet of Things, the Internet of Bodies, the cyber Internet of Things, it's all tied together inside your bone marrow. So when I try to tell people, hi, I'm from Black Projects, and you gotta understand, dude, this is a body part, and if you don't start working with it, and you don't start figuring it out, this is drone warfare. It ain't gonna wait on you. It ain't gonna wait on nobody. So what you have to do is understand that the only thing you have right now is physiology first, which is to admit it's a body part. They hid it for total human enslavement. And they have it. This isn't a maybe, it's all done. And the police department, the sheriff's departments, like I said, they're finished in 1972. Being able to talk to each other with synthetic telepathy and a bunch of little kids. And then when we were teenagers, here came the rest of it with 2013 was when they actually rolled out brain chip interface professionally. People still don't know that. They still think you need an actual chip in your brain. You don't. You just go buy a nano antenna with the right frequency for the wide body area network. It's like $100. And then you buy a $200 synthetic telepathy generating wearable that just goes inside your cranial nerves just subtly and allows you to hear all the signals around you that are projecting on these networks. These networks are connected to everything on the Internet of Things, the industrial Internet of Things, cyber, nano, Internet of Bodies. I made fun of the Internet of Bodies because I'm like, guys, if you don't know the specificity, then you have to. Because then they said, oh, but it's only in hospitals. And I'm like, no. No, that's as silly as, I mean, this is an engineered design. Why would we leave it only in the hospital? I mean, it wouldn't even function that way. It's completely wireless, satellite inclusive. So if that drone chooses your DNA, because that MQ9 has been tethered to you, remember? I just pointed this out a moment ago. I said MQ9, September 10th, 2020, Artificial Intelligence, Pentagon. MQ9 tethered to ground, Project Maven, Project Pathfinder with object detection. That's right. And a cognitive body area network, which I'll be coming back with these because they use something called an adversarial neural network. And they attack you. That's right. Because they're watching you think with those C-bands. Cognitive. For cognitive radar. Watching you think in real time. And it shows up on a little tiny iPad. Then they click a button. They got a heart attack and a stroke. Or anything they want. Any molecule. Any PHAGE state. Any phase state. It's all available to them. Since 2005? Oh, bare minimum. My parents had this Project Salus in 1969. Every molecule on the planet. Everywhere. So, how did we get here? How did all this get in place? No mental accountability, no mendacity, nothing. We just let them get away with it. First, they were subtly electrocuting. A lot of people got fibromyalgia, but nobody knew why. Pseudotumors. You have a tumor, but we can't physically find it. It's just your brain is acting like it. Then pseudoseizures. Oh gosh, we don't know why you're having so many seizures. Then lupus, Lou Gehrig's disease, and all autoimmune. 80% of your immune system is in that invisible body part. And 40 to 60% of your endocrine system. So that's why all the hormones can never get under control. You keep screwing with the electrical transduction of the basic cell structure of your largest organ. Come on, people. And then nano diseases. Oh, I don't know what that is. They do. The World Health Organization admitted to that. Cancer is not my story to tell, which is why we don't think a lot of people already figured this out with cancer. They're like, wait, I'm sick and now you want me to take chemo? Like, what? And yeah, so not my story to tell. And now we're all the way down here into sudden adult death syndrome. Oh gee, we don't know why. And when they move around too much and have oxygen transducing the red blood cells too much, it happens to be too much radar from Amazon shipping services. There's too much radar from just regular companies for security. Maybe it's just a regular company that's dredging geology or the top of a rock set. Whatever. But now it's pulling from your body to scan the area. Again, it's just part of the wireless sensor working group up here of the 802.15.5 and 0.4. But now it's using your body because you are in the 802.15.6. And for our purposes for this, instead of the striker, that's a satellite and she needs your body. And 802.15.6. Those are permanent lifetime sensors since 2005, commercially available. And the DoD is selling curated database access to you using our same census and Doppler and heat and light and where you live and who you talk to, which is why the whole reason that led me here was when I realized that my county, whoever it is that I live near, my little town of 200, is looking through my bloodstream, a 6G low band, and that freaked me out. I followed a link and I did the reading. So, nationwide, again, this is 2022 February, for digital ID, jumping a geofence and catching people so they can't leave their geofence. Why didn't anybody tell you you were wireless? Because they don't want to give you the remote control to your own body. So what are you going to do about it when the radar comes at you and she's ready with your DNA to end you? Because that's the lethal autonomous weapons statement I kept reading out of that college textbook. Yeah. So you can't hear it, right? Your body won't hear it coming, whether it's drone or transductive. That's a lie. On my channel on Odyssey, it's full of electromagnetic warfare survivors, people like myself that this stuff was tested on and then implemented at the industrial government scale for the Defense Intelligence Agency, the NRO, or whoever. And what you gotta understand now is that you're out of time because they're going to war. And they've been at this since 2005, and again, my family was in 1969. So here on my channel, I teach biofield practice. I teach offensive and defensive. Defensive is great because then you're opening yourself around inside your own field and you're learning how to actually listen and breathe. But offensive biofield practice came last week. And I heavily suggest that you observe it before you try it and before you do anything. Get familiar with your body again and correct all the things they taught you wrong so that they could access you with a remote. Take away your immune system because what's going to happen is the plasma charges, and if you watch Adapt 2030, he talks about this, those plasma charges, yeah, that's your electromagnetic body part. You're going to feel it either way. But if you have knowledge ahead of time, you're not going to be afraid, and you're going to be better prepared to observe your environment topologically, epigenetically, and really understand that people who are complicit in all this stuff that's really evil, they will tell you your biofield's not real, or they won't talk about it, and then if they're involved, and about 2/3, I'd say, pardon my face, of this country is involved, they'll just pretend it doesn't matter, and that, oh, it can't affect me. I believe this is the center of the mal revolution they're trying on our country because our youth biohack with this stuff, and they know how easy it is to purchase that $300 and have some telepathy and affect people. And in Hollywood, they've been doing it for a long time. Well, now they've taken it a step further with tissue engineering transmogrification. And I said to people, I'm like, they're going to turn the bottom of your arm into a fishbone. And they're like, no, they're not. And I said, yeah, they are. And so now it's here. There are doctors out there that are offering to change people's DNA and alter them into animal states, etc. Yeah, we know. That's what mRNA plays a part in. Okay? So step one, you got to get honest about your physiology. You have an invisible body part, and everybody knows except you. That's a problem. Why? Because it's your body. That's it. Instantly. Now project that field. See how much force that was? Whole body. Just take a look at the biofield actually looks like. It's electromagnetic energy, isn't it? That drone's coming, you're gonna feel it. The body naturally does. Owlry, see through the birds, all that stuff, notes, ley lines. The military's been using them a long time. Why didn't you know? Why aren't you allowed to know it? Step one. It's your body part. Step two, get right with God. Prayerful people who are like, I don't want Jesus. Okay, well, whatever you want. Physiology first, it's the body part. Get right with God. Prayerful people just represent all forms of love. Then, practice, religions, whatever, okay? Notice how I separated that? Whatever you believe in as the deity that loves you, know that there's something greater out there than yourself. That's private, that's personal. You are soul sovereign, and being, and your skin secret, okay? So for anyone to have soul magnets with voltage adjustment, then handed it out to law enforcement in secret surveillance, and no doctors, no nothing, for how many years? Then all of a sudden after COVID, oh, it's Project Salus, and I'm going, oh my God, we're in so much trouble, gold cat stars and goldfish. And that's when I got really mouthy this yearning. I said, Bubba, bitch, here's your veins and arteries, they're flowing just fine. No, they're not. Look how much effort that is. Watch how much effort this is. Watch carefully, and then go view what the biofield looks like when it fully expands, okay? Dude. You're So why are you still pretending that you are not in your Defense Intelligence Agency Pentagon databases with every dream that you have, and that your precognition is also watched? It's in your tissue. That's why spiders eat with it. Same way with algae. It's all natural. And everybody's always like, oh, I love being in nature. Where are all these wires and things? Pretty soon they're going to go away. And most people didn't know that we had all this, gravitonics, plasmonics, and all the rest of it. We had it in the 1800s, and they took it away for 150 years so they could sell you back your immune system and lock you up. Now they have. If you don't have your biofield in the upcoming electromagnetic warfare, you will not survive. It's that simple. So your chances now, and you don't have much time. 1953. What do you think they got now? You. And then
He's a psychiatrist, and he's going to organize different.
so here we have, I'm just going to talk over this because this guy's kind of hard to understand. I took you back to where what I've been referencing about how they have different brain projects in multiple countries. Here's Japan. Marmoset brain mapping, innovative technology, disease biomarkers. Okay. Why the entire neural circuit of the marmoset brain? Small brain size, but preserved anatomical architecture in marmosets can be genetically modified. Okay. Remember, this whole thing that they're all talking to each other is in 2016, 8 years ago. Structural mapping of the brain, MRI-based connectomes. Do you remember what a brain connectome is? It's been a while. Brain connectomes. A connectome is a comprehensive map of neural connections in the brain and may be thought of as a wiring diagram of the brain. Oh, but they don't know. Yeah, they do. Kind of busy. This, it says 6 days ago, towards a biologically annotated brain connectome, Nature Reviews Neuroscience. Here's another one, a connectome for cognition from MIT. So yes, these are common. Then they have their transcriptomes and all sorts of ways that they communicate. Genetic influences on hub connectivity of the human connectome. Check it out. Let's take a look. Well, here we are again. Brain network hubs are both highly connected and highly interconnected, forming a critical communication backbone for coherent neural dynamics. Am I reading that right? Graph theory, yeah. Network hubs in the human brain. Brain hubs can be detected with tools and methods of graph theory. Network studies have consistently identified structural hubs in cerebral cortex. Hubs are central in brain communication and neural integration. This is, I think, what I refer to in my Sabrina terminology as neural networks. But I hope I'm wrong. Hubs participate widely across a diverse set of cognitive functions. High centrality makes hubs susceptible to disconnection and dysfunction. Virtually all domains of cognitive function require the integration of distributed neural activity. Network analysis of human brain connectivity has consistently identified sets of regions that are critically important for enabling efficient neuronal signaling and communication. The central embedding of these candidate brain hubs in anatomical networks supports their diverse functional roles across a broad range of cognitive tasks and widespread dynamic coupling within and across functional networks. The high level of centrality of brain hubs also renders them points of vulnerability that are susceptible to disconnection and dysfunction in brain disorders. Combining data from numerous empirical and computational studies, network approaches strongly suggest that brain hubs play important roles in information integration underpinning numerous aspects of complex cognitive function. Lovely. The central role of integrated processes in communication. Since the beginning of modern neuroscience, the brain has generally been viewed as an anatomically differentiated organ whose many parts and regions are associated with the expression of specific mental faculties, behavioral traits, or cognitive operations. The idea that individual brain regions are functionally specialized and make specific contributions to mind and cognition is supported by a wealth of evidence. Well, thank you for that. Structural hubs, compiling macro-scale connectome maps of the human brain from diffusion imaging data. Not only can they see what you're thinking, they can see how your brain is putting it together with a wiring map. Literally. The definition up here, when I click on OWL. What are brain connectomes? The connectome may be defined as the complete point-to-point spatial connectivity of neural pathways in the brain. Okay. So, brain network hubs, because genetic influences on hub connectivity of the human connectome, are both highly connected and highly interconnected, forming a critical communication backbone for coherent neural dynamics. The mechanisms driving this organization are poorly understood, using diffusion-weighted magnetic resonance imaging in twins. We identify a major role for genes showing that they preferentially influence connectivity strength between network hubs of the human connectome. Using transcriptomic atlas data, we show that connected hubs demonstrate tight coupling of transcriptional activity related to metabolic and cytoarchitectonic similarity. Oh, there's a new one. Finally, comparing over 13 generative models of network growth, we show that purely stochastic processes cannot explain the precise wiring pattern of hubs, and that model performance can be improved by incorporating genetic constraints. Our findings indicate that genes play a strong and preferential role in shaping the functionality valuable, metabolically costly connections between brain connectome hubs. Nervous systems are intricately connected networks with complex wiring patterns that are neither completely random nor completely ordered. Numerous studies conducted in species as diverse as the nematode, mouse, mac, and human, and at scales ranging from the cellular to the macroscopic, have shown that this complex organization is in part attributable to a heterogeneous distribution of connectivity across neural elements, such that a large fraction of network connections is concentrated on a small subset of network nodes called hubs. Damn it. These hubs are more strongly interconnected with each other than expected by chance, forming a rich club that is topologically positioned to integrate functionality diverse neural systems and to mediate a large proportion of inter-regional communication. In the human cortex, hubs are predominantly located in transmodal paralimbic and association areas and are among the most metabolically expensive elements of the connectome. Excuse me, even I have to look up things sometimes. Transmodal, non-sensory specific regions sit at the confluence of different information streams. Okay. Let me just go ahead and click, and I have a pretty picture of what you mean here. Executive memory, perceptual memory. Well, this is GeoCities. Here we go. Microstructural and functional gradients. Oh, that's even worse. Okay, hang on. The association cortices include most of the cerebral surface of the human brain and are largely responsible for complex processing. So, yeah, well, great. And are among the most metabolically expensive elements of the connectome, with rich club connections between hubs accounting for a disproportionate fraction of axonal wiring costs. Paralimbic and association hubs of the brain also show marked inter-individual variability in connectivity and function that relates to a diverse array of behaviors. These brain regions are disproportionately expanded in individuals with larger brains and in human compared to non-human primates. They also show greater topological centrality and evolutionary divergence in the human connectome when compared to chimpanzee. These findings support the view that rapid expansion of multimodal association hubs and the costly, valuable, rich club connections between them underlies the enhanced cognitive capacity of humans compared to other species. Molecular communication, harnessing biochemical materials to engineer biomimetic communication systems. Molecular communication uses molecules, like biochemical signals, as an information medium and allows biologically and artificially created nano or microscale entities to communicate over a short distance. It is a new communication paradigm. It is different from the traditional communication paradigm, which uses electromagnetic waves, i.e. electronic and optical signals, as an information medium. Key research challenges in molecular communication include design of system components, i.e. a sender, a molecular propagation system, a receiver, and a molecular communications interface, and mathematical modeling of each system component as well as entire systems. We review all research activities in molecular communication to date, from its origin to recent experimental studies and theoretical approaches for each system component. As model molecular communication system, we describe an integrated system that combines a molecular communication interface using a lipid vesicle embedded with channel-forming proteins. Boy, this gets better and better. A molecular propagation system using microtubule motility on kinesin molecular motors and DNA hybridization. That's your little nanobots. And a sender-receiver using giant lipid vesicles embedded with Gemini peptide lipids. Huh, yippee. And they got potential applications and a future outlook on molecular communication. Introduction. Communication technology is commonly referred to electromagnetic wave-based and electronic and optical communications in a highly networked information-based society where cellular phones and internet are essential tools in daily life. The origin of electronic communication goes back to the 1700s. Researchers aim to achieve high speed, high capacity, and long distance communication. In the near future, such innovation will provide gigabit-class wireless communication. However, the greatest opportunity is to create a new communication paradigm that extends and complements the traditional high-speed communication paradigm, which uses electromagnetic waves, electronic and optical signals, as an information medium. In this review, we focus on natural communication mechanisms that use molecules, biochemical signals, as an information medium. Molecule-based communication systems are ubiquitously employed in living organisms and have been developed by evolutionary processes for billions of years. Communication in biological systems is typically achieved by molecules except for electric signal transduction mechanisms, such as nerve systems, and is often found in aqueous environments such as within and between biological cells. For instance, multicellular organisms, including human beings, perform maintenance of homeostasis. Oh, we do? How would we even know that? I mean, how many people out there even knew any of this is going on? They didn't even know their body was electrical. Growth regulation, kinematic control, memory, and learning through inter- and intracellular communication using signal transducing molecules such as hormones. If artificially designed and controllable molecule-based communication systems that transmit biochemical information, e.g. status of living organisms, can be developed, which is not feasible using traditional communication, it may be possible to devise a new communication paradigm. In 2005, we named this concept molecular communication and have pioneered the research in this field. Molecular communication provides molecule-based biomimetic communication mechanisms, and it allows biologically and artificially created nano or microscale entities, e.g. biological cells and biohybrid devices, to communicate over a short distance. Molecular communication has received increasing attention as an interdisciplinary research area, which spans nanotechnology, biotechnology, and communication engineering. In generic molecular communication, a sender generates molecules, encodes information onto the molecules, called information molecules, and emits the information molecules to the propagation environment. A propagation system transports the emitted information molecules to a receiver. Now, if you think back to the video, that's what he said. The receiver reacts biochemically according to the received information molecules, and this biochemical reaction represents decoding of the information. Yippee! Molecular communication interface. A vesicle-based communication interface provides a mechanism to transport different types of information molecules in diverse propagation environments. A liposome is an artificially created spherical vesicle composed of a phospholipid bilayer membrane surrounding a discrete aqueous compartment and interaqueous phase. Its diameter can be controlled. From tens of nanometers to tens of micrometers, the liposomal structure compartmentalizes information molecules. Passive transport. The simplest and easiest approach to transporting information molecules or vesicles that encapsulate information molecules from a sender to receiver is to use free diffusion. In biological systems, for instance, neurotransmitters such as acetylcholines diffuse at a synapse, around 100 nanometer gap between nerve cell and target cell. Cellular slime molds such as amoebas exhibit chemotaxis by detecting a molecular concentration gradient of cyclic these words, adenosine monophosphates. Oh, I've run into that before, camps. And biological cell-based approaches, the most straightforward approach to creating senders and receivers in molecular communication is giving a cell phone to your cells. Oh, is to use living cells. Did you get that? My shoulder's like, ow. The most straightforward approach to creating senders and receivers in molecular communication is to use living cells. And eukaryotic, is that right? Eukaryotic, because it's eukaryote. Eukaryotic cells organelles called ribosomes synthesize proteins, which are transported to cell membranes through the vesicle transport between the endoplasmic reticulum. Swear to God, every time I started playing EA Sims, it said reticulating spleens and Golgi apparatus. Then the transported molecules are secreted into the outside of the cell by exocytosis and diffused away. Anybody else getting the impression that these people don't want to die, like, no matter what? Sheesh. This is an example of molecular communication. So you can just Google molecular communication. I already talked to everybody about programmable matter. Where did my... Hang on. There we are. So, MRI-based brain wiring maps, connectomes, okay? Then they started talking about structural mapping with tracer injection, stereotaxic injections, high-throughput histology pipeline, serial 2-photon tomography, registration with MRI data, category, sensory, motor, memory, plasticity, physical domain, social domain, tasks, targeted ability, ECOG, multi-electrode arrays. They're tracking everything. Optical clearing techniques, 3D immunohistochemistry, innovations in neurotechnologies, fluorescent and bioluminescent probes for brain structures, cell-to-cell contact imaging. Excuse me. Innovative neurotechnologies, development of synaptic optogenetics, accelerated Rotaro task, first labeling of memory synapses, first optical erasure of memory. You're reading that right. Each memory may utilize a discrete circuit in the cortex. Article, labeling and optical erasure of synaptic memory traces in the motor cortex. Remember, they might be saying that in order to correct something that went wrong after something like a car accident, maybe. Optical erasure of motor memory. Parkinson's. Brain mapping and clinical research, central team, clinical teams, facilitating collaboration among their researchers, and then I think this is where Korea starts talking. Because this is still Japan. Marmoset brain mapping, innovative technology, disease biomarkers, coordinating global brain projects, Korea Brain Initiative. There's their background. South Korea is pretty big in a lot of stuff. Flagship project, advancing brain science and preparing for future neuro industry. Right there. That's their strategy. Hub-spoke model, enhancing competitiveness. Hey, better not do that. Enhancing competitiveness of brain science by nationwide network. This might be a good time to remind you, those of you that don't know, brain-to-brain interface is in legitimately brain-to-brain LSVR, please. This went live like commercial in 2014. Dang it. And if I do it this way, I still don't get my paper that I like. Immune to brain communication. Oh, there you are. Thank you. I like the Prisma review because it has a pretty picture. May 2021, direct communication between brains, a systematic Prisma review of brain-to-brain interface. Now, I just want you to observe the figure 1 here, okay? First interspecies brain-to-brain study in 2013. First human-to-human, 2014. First network collaboration, 2015. Maybe this will make more sense to you after reading you the brain connectome stuff too. First brain-to-brain with ultrasound on human subjects, and first multi-sender single receiver brain-to-brain model, 2019. Again, you think they don't know what they're doing? They have like a wiring map of the brain. They know what goes faster, what doesn't. It's insane, the amount of data that's out there. So AI-related R&D projects, next-gen AI algorithm, again, we're in 2016, excuse me, there we go, that mimics higher brain functions, circuit mechanism, and human neural information processing, brain mapping at multi-scale, functional brain mapping, innovative multidisciplinary projects, novel technologies and neuro tools for functional brain mapping, and our favorite, personalized medicine for mental and neurological disorders. Quit electrocuting people, I'm just saying. Neuroscience ecosystem reinforcement, fostering human resources, training next-gen neuroscientists through multidisciplinary programs, national and global networking, sustainable infrastructure, future neuro industry. Korea Brain Initiative with their budgets and how much they're going to spend. Next person is China. China Brain Project and Non-Human Primate Research, Institute of Neuroscience. Now, all the countries are here. This is 4 hours worth of them all talking to each other and putting their brain maps together. Two main agencies, Ministry of Science and Technology and Natural Science Foundation in China. Proposals submitted on March 2015, China Brain Project 2016 to 2030. Brain science and brain-inspired intelligence technology. And approved in 2016 according to them. China's brain research environment. Rapid increase of neuroscientists for their society, doubling every 5 years. Continuing increase of funding, interdisciplinary supports, chemistry, physics, computer science, nanoscience, material science, and engineering, large populations of brain disease patients, depression, epilepsy, autism, abundant resource of non-human primates, and traditional social mobilization on a national scale. Tradition is what it says. Key objectives: understand neural basis of cognitive functions and develop brain research technology platforms. Excuse me. To throw my cats out of the room, they were getting kind of crazy. So their key objectives are to develop effective approaches in early diagnosis and intervention of brain disorders, and to develop brain-machine intelligence technologies. In 2016, core component neural basis of cognitive processes approach from mapping to understanding, mapping all cell types in all brain regions, single cell gene profiling, connections among all neurons in the brain, connectome, activities of all neurons associated with specific functions, understanding, number 1, how genetic programs determine the building blocks of brains, molecules, and cell types. Number 2, how molecules and cells establish specific synaptic connections and generate specific circuit activities. Number 3, how neural circuit activities generate cognitive brain functions and animal behaviors. Basic brain technologies and platforms, single neuron gene expression profiling and labeling, circuit tracing technologies and brain imaging technologies, in vivo, electrophysiological and electrochemical recording, in vivo in place of origin. Neuromodulation technologies, neural information processing platform, transgenic non-human primate platform. They got data centers, of course they do, so do we. Oh, we're gonna save the paraplegics. Yeah, you're not doing any of this to help people with diseases. You're causing a lot of diseases doing this. Brain-machine intelligence technologies. New generation of brain-machine interface and fusion devices, electrical, magnetic, ultrasonic, neuromodulation technologies. Boy, that sounds familiar. Brain-inspired neural network models. Yep. Studies of the cognitive functions using non-human primate as the animal model, generation of genetically modified monkeys as animal models of human brain disorders, and basic neurobiology research. Development of training and education programs for sustainable research. This is still China. But I thought they're attacking us and they're so far ahead of us, etc., etc. next country is, hang on, CIHRIRSC, oh, British Columbia is Canada. Brain and Health, Neuroinformatics, yeah. Vancouver, Montreal. So, goals of the workshops were to create a national brain health research plan for Canada, neuroinformatics, computational modeling, imaging, and animal model systems were all seen as platform areas that will play a critical role in any national plan, broad support for developing targeted initiatives, integration of new technologies in genetics, epigenetics, including your lovely CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing, brain imaging from cell to neural systems, coupled with imaging ranging from intracellular to functional imaging in the human brain. And Canada plays a leading role in a number of major international consortia and therefore coordination with key international brain research initiatives. So this is what I mean. They're all together on this. There's no big division other than what? Because they're sharing the same databases. And you have to imagine there's not a lot of people, or not people, but companies that are doing the whole brain connectome. And even if they are, the level of precision necessary to orchestrate these databases, you don't get to just be some rando business and do that. You're going to be using their back end. That's how it functions. It's how it's functioned for decades. So I'm going to stop there and let y'all take a look at this if you care to, because there's just so much data in that one place. Okay, hang on just a second. Not you. You're the one that I'm still on. Okay. So, in vivo genome editing. I hope by now you understand. Yeah, they're really doing that. Like, they're really doing it. I don't think I have that ready yet. Oh, the fun stuff. And yeah, because I have some other Antarctica clips that I definitely want to go over. However, Neuromorphic Computing Overview of the Human Brain Project 2023.
Fibers. This means that 2 to the power of 10 to the power of 15 different brain states are theoretically possible. How can we better understand this complex system? The Human Brain Project started as an EU flagship project in 2013 and brought together a network of more than 500 researchers from 155 institutions in 19 countries. And the Human Brain Project made sure that these researchers were connected. In order to address the multi-level complexity of the brain in space and time, researchers from different disciplines needed to work together in a network. And with each discipline having its own approach to targeting the cellular organization, or the molecular or the macro-scale organization of the brain, a certain degree of fragmentation needed to be overcome. The advancement of neuroscience and the simultaneous emergence of new digital and computational technologies has enabled these developments to be connected.
Networks and AI. Neurology and psychiatry, that's
Researchers had to learn how to communicate with each other, but also how to communicate based on a digital platform and using networks of computing. Artificial neuronal networks have become more and more powerful and have been applied by researchers of the Human Brain Project to solve challenging problems in brain research. At the same time, insights from brain research have been applied in the development of new networks. The Human Brain Project has co-developed 2 powerful neuromorphic systems, BrainScales and Spinnaker, and a platform of high-performance supercomputing centers that is moving towards exascale to address the large-scale data analysis, modeling, and simulation jobs carried out by the neuroscience community. This has been supported by the Phoenix infrastructure, which serves as a base infrastructure for eBrains. eBrains is a research infrastructure for brain research that the Human Brain Project has built.
I'm not making
It
fun of him,
provides
I'm
web-based
serious.
access to a plethora of different tools and services. It allows researchers to build their own workflows and to speed up their tools of research to simulate large networks, explore data in the Atlas, and to share data with others.
Yep.
eBrains hosts a network of methods necessary to explore the different spatial and temporal scales of the brain. These methods are coming from different fields, from optical techniques over molecular technologies, to brain mapping in the living or in post-mortem human brains, to cell recordings and functional imaging to image the living human brain. With EEG and MEG, researchers can capture the dynamics of brain organization. Modeling and simulation are used to better understand brain dynamics.
Yep.
With this approach, the Human Brain Project aims to gain deeper insights into brain organization and understand brain function and dysfunction and how this is related to brain structure, with the aim of developing new diagnostics and therapies, as well as co-designing neuro-derived technology.
It's for your health until it becomes monetarily lucrative to co-design neuro-derived technologies. Then we don't give a shit about your health.
And providing input for the design of new artificial neuronal networks.
Like I was saying.
The project has shaped the future of computing towards
absolutely.
exascale and built an international community of researchers,
Yeah, they
a
kind of work
prerequisite
together.
for its ambitious endeavors.
Yep.
It has advanced the framework of ethics for
I haven't seen any
neuroscience,
ethics yet.
all for the benefit of society.
Uh-huh. Yours. You mean your cult? Sabrina! Well, what do you want me to say? This is ridiculous. And it just keeps getting worse. Alright. Uncle Gene onwards, everybody.
Biotech seminar series. Really excited to have Michael Levin. Welcome everyone to ʟʟᴇ Biotech seminar series. Really excited to have Michael Levin here again. I discovered your work, I think about 5 years ago, in one of your Neurops presentations on what bodies think about. Was totally startled by it. Could not believe what you were discussing there until we had you on, I think 2 or 3 years ago for ʟʟᴇ seminar a while back. Also on, I think the topic was taming the collective intelligence of self, with a focus also on possible regeneration and longevity implications. Since then, I have contacted you quite a few times to ask if you want to nominate fellows for ʟʟᴇ, because we really want to explore a little bit more the longevity and bio angle of much of your work. Since then, you have not stopped working. In fact, quite the opposite. You have now produced some really mind-boggling bits on xenobots and anthrobots ever since. And so hopefully we may get into some of that also during the Q&A. And then most recently, you were on a Cognitive Revolution podcast and discussed some of the implications of your work for AI, and especially for the new and bio-inspired approaches to intelligence. That was really interesting. We have launched our AI safety grant since then, and not many, but a few of the applications actually actively referenced your work in their AI applications. So I'm just really excited to discuss, hopefully, some of these things in the Q&A, but for now, please take it away. Thank you so much for joining. Today, you'll be discussing endogenous bioelectrical networks and interface to regenerative medicine, and hopefully we can tease out some of the longevity implications and some of the AI implications afterwards in the Q&A. Thanks a lot for joining. We are big fans of your work, and please take it away.
Thank you so much. That's a very kind introduction. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to share some ideas with you. And what I'd like to talk to you about is basically the following point. That I'm going to make the argument that bodies consist of a kind of multi-scale competency architecture. And the key element of this is that there's problem-solving intelligence at every level, from the molecular networks to up to organs and swarms and so on. I'm going to make the argument that definitive regenerative medicine is really going to require us to exploit this collective intelligence. What it amounts to is communicating our anatomical goals in morphospace to the cells. And the
Stop. So it is no longer the tadpoles given anatomical goals, because clearly it needs someone like this guy to, or I'm not trying to pick on him, but whoever, to come in and rearrange everything in that morphospace so that they know how to morphologically change themselves. Machines and organism, words and drugs have the same mechanism of action. Okay. And you guys have seen a bunch of this before, because he's going to talk to these students, show his planarian worm stuff, and then he's going to talk about, which is what I'm going to fast forward to here again, closed loop pattern homeostasis, nerds. Oh, but if you just change the gene, nah. You got bioelectric code going on at every level. Like he said, it's an architecture. The hardware is your gene products and electrical circuits, and the software is you screwing around with the body's electricity, opening channels and closing them to get the morphology that you're looking for. Again, the nano is only there to make things easier for them to read. I'm still kind of on math dudes level of things, of where they just tug and perturbate your bioelectricity. Bioelectrically induced morphogenetic subroutines exhibit recruitment competency.
10. Initially, when we said we wanted to change the resting potential of cells, the background assumption was going to be that what you'll get is uninterpretable toxicity and death, because voltage was thought to be a housekeeping parameter. I want to show you actually what it really does. So what we do here is we inject some, in this particular case, we inject some RNA encoding a set of potassium channels. What they can do with the cells they end up in once the proteins are made is set a voltage, a little pattern of voltage that looks like that eye spot that I just showed you in the electric face. So when you do that, whichever cells get that pattern, they are instructed by that pattern to build an eye. And so here you have eye made from cells that were supposed to be gut. If you section those eyes, you get lens, retina, optic nerve, all the right stuff. So here we learn some interesting things. First of all, that the bioelectric pattern is instructive. It actually calls up new eyes. It's not just that we messed it up and then the cells died and there's toxicity. No, it's actually instructive. You can call up healthy new organs by specific bioelectric patterns. It's modular. We didn't have to tell these cells how to build an eye. In fact, we have no idea how to build an eye. What we found is a high-level subroutine, basically a high-level trigger that tells them to build an eye, and they take care of the rest. It also, we also find that actually there's this prompt of this bioelectric pattern reveals more competency in these cells because in the developmental biology textbook, it will tell you that only the anterior neuroectoderm here is competent to make eye. And that's true if you prompt them with the PAX6 so-called master regulator eye gene. But actually, these cells are perfectly competent. It's just that nobody had prompted them with a more convincing stimulus. And so this, again, reminds us to be humble in the sense that every assessment of the competency of some system is basically us taking an IQ test ourselves.
And then we're gonna brief bioelectric signals trigger long-term self-limiting something with our poor frogs, and practical applications for regenerative medicine, wearable bioreactors to deliver bioelectric state in vivo, path to mammalian limb regeneration. You want a hands or a fish flipper?
And get them to commit early on to a leg growing behavior versus a scarring behavior. Okay, the next quick story I'm going to tell you is about planaria. And so here are these flatworms. And perhaps one of the most interesting, then if you later cut this animal, this perfectly normal, anatomically correct looking animal with normal gene expression, normal anatomy, will then regenerate as two heads, because that is what its pattern memory says.
So even if you're normal, we can turn you into a two-headed wonkawoo. Like any good memory, it is stable and the content is not determined by the hardware. I'm trying to get through to... Teratogens induce brain morphology, I think it's a defense, by disrupting bioelectric pattern.
So for example, for nicotine, you can see the difference here between this brain and this. And so we asked, okay, is there any hope that using this bioelectrical information, we can actually restore something as complex as this? You might think that what you'd have to do is tattoo every single cell with the appropriate information to get back into this very specific pattern. So we made a computational model. This is Alexis Pytak and Vaibhav Pai in my group did this. And they made this model and they asked, okay, under a scenario like this, when things have gone wrong, what can we do to the bioelectrical gradient to get back to normal? And the model actually suggested one particular ion channel, which is called HCN2. And that channel has some really interesting properties that I don't have time to get into here, but one of the things it does is restore sharp bioelectrical patterns and restore borders between adjacent compartments. And what that does is able to repair even genetic defects. So here's a normal brain. Here's the brain of a tadpole with a dominant notch mutant. So you can see the forebrain is gone, the midbrain and hindbrain are a big bubble. And even on that background, if you also give it either HCN2 RNA or a couple of human-approved drugs that are HCN2 openers, these animals will end up with a normal brain structure, normal.
So we're using the bioelectricity. We're playing around with bioelectricity. And he mentioned just a little bit ago how they don't know exactly what the instructions were, but they know where to put the cell to get it to make the eyeball. In this particular example, you can heal yourself with your own bioelectricity. Well, we put some drugs in there and we open an ion channel. Well, they're targeting a certain area. My point is this right here. This is why you're not allowed to know about your own bioelectricity. I don't need drugs to heal. Now, in an emergency, break my leg, break my back, etc. But basic daily healing, this is why they don't let you know. This is why they don't want anybody to know. That way you're always running to them for the next set of drugs and cut you open, etc. Now, this is a good place. I'm going to leave off of here because, boy, oh boy, it just gives me the douche chills all over. Ooh. Ooh, oh. Hang on, I'll do it this way. I think I have time. Hope put up a health, healing, and crisis and hypocrisy in the church. And now don't get your panties in a bundle. Her point has to do with...
Wow, what a week it's been. What a couple of weeks it's been. Twice. I had my tonsils out when I was 13 because I had really bad tonsil problems. And then I was stung by a scorpion about 7 years ago, and it was one of the really big scorpions that could kill you. So I was nervous that I was going to die, and I told my husband to bring me to the hospital in case, I needed some kind of medical equipment to keep me alive. So my mentality towards hospitals and the medical establishment is that there are places where you need acute care, emergencies. If I get into a car accident and I break my bones, I'm not going to be drinking a cup of herbal tea to heal myself from that. You do need certain medical equipment for certain acute emergency situations, but not for health. Don't go for health because doctors, they're killing people, right? So I've just spent the last 3 weeks buried in the medical body area network information, which is going to be coming out. And it's all about the new medical care and what they're doing to people in these hospitals, and that biomedical engineers are the new doctors of the future. And they're merging technology inside of people's bodies, and they're doing some really, really scary stuff. They're doing things like wireless drugging. They could drug you wirelessly, like just by walking by you and pushing a button on their cell phone. It's really, really creepy, freaky stuff, right? So in the context of all of this, we have this society of people who have been completely traumatized by what they did to us through COVID. And there's a bunch of people that no longer trust their doctors. They no longer trust the medical establishment. And they don't know what to do in order to take care of themselves. So people are seeking answers. They're trying to find ways to heal themselves and ways to have like emergency supplies in their house. Like maybe I should teach myself about disinfecting wounds, or administering an IV drip if I had to, or basic antibiotics and infection control, things like that, like first aid in your house, like as if you were like the old pioneers and you couldn't get to a doctor or a hospital. So people are trying to do some basic first aid education on how to take care of themselves and their families, especially in times of emergencies. And this extends out into, trying to protect and heal their bodies from this arsenal of bioweapons, pathogens, diseases that are being put onto society so that they could make vaccines for them and things like that, right? So people are trying. And they're also trying to detox because we are very, very, very toxic. They have been poisoning us and spraying us like bugs for generations. People are trying to get the toxins out of their bodies. Okay? Again, I'm not perfect. Okay? I am not perfect. But I do the best that I can. And I probably do a lot more than a lot of people that I know. Because I'm consciously aware of things I'm putting into my body and my health and the stuff that I eat and how much I exercise and all the stuff that I try to do to take care of my health and to pray and take care of my spirit. So what's happening is you have this group of people in society that are trying to figure out how they can heal themselves without evil medical doctors that are trying to kill them. So they're trying to take vitamins, they're trying to take supplements, they're trying to do detoxes, they're doing whatever they can, and they're educating themselves. And then in the course of educating themselves, those people and the natural healing people that are out there, they're being attacked. They're being attacked. I mean, there's how many holistic doctors have been murdered over the last several years, right? So people are being attacked for trying to heal themselves without the medical industry. And then they're saying things like they're poisoning everything. There's poison in vitamins. There's poison in this. There's poison in that. Everything will kill you, right? So here's the thing. What I'm attempting to put forward in the next several videos with my mom, okay, because she's the expert. She's the one that has the skills. I'm trying to put forward the knowledge and the education about vitamins. Which vitamins are good? Which vitamins are bad? Here, let me get the list of some of the things that I want to cover in these videos because these are like the hot topics that is everybody's trigger points and everybody's freaking out about. What can you detox out of your body? Can you detox graphene oxide out of your body? How about heavy metals? Can you detox spike proteins out of your body? Can you detox genetic changes out of your body? Can you detox biosensors out of your body? What are the natural God-given defenses in the body? For test results that might be shown, do pre-existing conditions matter? Does environment matter? Does the name and association of the lab matter? Please explain to us how they can skew statistics or lab results. Perhaps give an example. Let's talk about the silver bullet fallacy, because there's no silver bullets for this.
Okay, now over here, somewhere close to the beginning, hang on. You might know some of that background, but just in case you don't, I definitely want to make sure I have my stuff together so that I can put that out there so you can see the history behind it. But in a nutshell, just in layman's terms, it was about 150 years ago that they started this whole thing with hospitals and medical doctors and medical technology. And before that, people would learn how to heal the body based on natural methods. You know, people in the Bible were healers. Jesus is the ultimate healer. So God made us beautifully. We are wonderfully and fearfully made. He made our bodies, he made our cell structure, and he also wants to give us the knowledge on how to heal ourselves. And it's a lifestyle choice. Now, I know that none of us are perfect. I am certainly not perfect. I have spent a lifetime battling different issues and things with my health, and like a lot of us have, but I do the best that I can, and I pray daily, and I want to make sure that I can educate myself on how to best take care of myself. So, you know, a lot of people out there are trying to do the best that they can to take care of their own health, to prevent anything from happening to them, especially now that we are dealing with what they've just done to the world with COVID. The medical industrial complex has weaponized medicine to kill people. And people are walking around and they have no knowledge on how to heal themselves. Come from with this. My mother raised me. My mom's the one that raised me. My mom's an incredible lady. She's a PhD in health, nutrition, healing, clinical nutritionist,
herbology, natural healing methods. So that is the woman that raised me. I have always been afraid of doctors because I've watched doctors kill a lot of people that I love my whole life before COVID. Okay, so now there's a lot of people that won't go into hospitals because the hospitals are now the killing fields. But the background I'm coming from is I knew from the beginning, do not go run into the doctor, especially don't go, like these people that go 5 times a year for a checkup when they're already healthy because they need a doctor to tell them that they're healthy. It's like, you know, it's, or let me go put my body parts in this x-ray microwave machine so that after 5 years of doing that, I'll end up getting cancer. You know, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
So I wanted to make sure I included both sides of that, and that's why I skipped around a little bit, because when he's over here talking about how the bioelectric code and you can, you know, these cells will heal themselves, but we're not allowed to do that. See? They need electroceutical drugs. How to exploit bioelectric interface to guide navigation through morphogenesis. What ion flows would repair the physiological state? Remember, this is regenerative medicine. So the implication is that there's something wrong. We want to fix it. We're going to rewrite your bioelectric code and let your cells do the work.
Would restore the correct pattern, and then it becomes fairly straightforward to find drugs that will do that. And so you can play with this. The early version of that platform is here. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap up by saying a couple of big picture things.
Hang on.
We know that both evolution and development have scale.
45. I want 40. Yeah, right around you.
Of health and disease, and this is not these data, by the way, are not available. We're just gearing up now to let this kind of physiology catch up to the omics kind of data sets that exist for protein and RNA, and then.
So the data sets are already there for the protein and the RNA. Here's how we're going to, again, molecular communication, hacking the hacking the bioelectric code, playing with the physiology of the morphogenetic field, flexible boundary between self and world, shifting scale of cognitive agency. They do not feel they're doing anything wrong. This is next generation biomedicine. And why don't they feel like they're doing anything wrong? Well, this is their playground, your body. You're not allowed to know about that biofield, and you certainly aren't allowed to know about natural healing methods. No, no, no. You need to be running to that physician. That's why I played Hope there, because I really liked everything that she said inside of that little delivery of common sense. I mean, we've come to a point now where people don't even understand that they're made of water. Like, they're a huge component of them is water. They don't understand that the vasculature, they still do not have any idea that their heart is electrical. And we're dealing with people who are over here deciding whether or not you're going to have an arm or a fish flipper. I would call that a massive intellectual divide. But, I mean, come on now. Don't you think that's a little mean to leave it that way? Nah. Aren't you all for equity, y'all? No, they're not. They don't want equity, or they would have told people about this body part and trained people to use it. No way. Ethics in Society and Brain Science and the Human Brain Project.
What is it that makes us human? Our brain is more complex than the other animals. It has made us able to use tools, control fire, build supercomputers, and explore the universe. Digital tools allow us to learn more about the brain. What we learn is embedded in and dependent on growing wells of data and tools of automation. Therefore, we find ourselves facing complex, philosophical, social, and ethical questions, and questions about how this knowledge should influence our societies, healthcare, and everyday lives. Over the last 10 years, we have developed a new methodological approach to philosophical and neuroethical reflection that promotes integration of scientific, conceptual, social, and ethical perspectives to analyze. the nature of consciousness and criteria for assessing its presence in humans, non-human animals, and machines. Social and cultural influences on the developing brain's architecture. The use of digital twins to understand and help treat human brain pathologies, and the ethical and philosophical issues that arise through AI research and its applications. We asked over 3,400 citizens across 19 European countries about how they think brain science should embrace data protection, data and neuroethics, AI and dual use issues. We found that citizens want information that's easy to find and
dual use issues.
understand. They want to know about the outcomes of research, protection, safety and accountability, oversight and proactive prevention of misuse. They're concerned about commercial exploitation of public research, and they want to be heard on directions and priorities of research. We have developed a data governance framework for the Human Brain Project and the eBrains infrastructure built on people, processes and technology, including a data policy manual, a management process for ethics compliance, governance policies for the EU research infrastructure eBrains, where we've implemented robust access control model, terms of use, a data provision protocol and data use agreement, ensuring ethically responsible, socially acceptable and legally compliant data processing pipelines and workflows. We developed a novel approach to dual use of concern in brain research that considers a range of concerning uses, covering political, security, intelligence and military domains. The approach has been developed in collaboration between scientists and experts inside and outside the Human Brain Project. This broader approach to dual use of concern has been crucial in raising awareness about responsible brain research because it includes proactive reflection and action. We take equality, diversity and inclusion seriously and have collaborated across different levels of the Human Brain Project. We've involved everyone from leaders to students. We've created tools and guidelines that enable critical reflection and practical implementation of equality, diversity and inclusion across the project. Our work has also highlighted the importance of considering gender and other variables to improve our understanding of the brain. Working proactively to counteract biases in brain-inspired AI models and brain research. We created spaces for dialogue between Human Brain Project researchers, experts and stakeholders. These dialogues have helped us look at the future implications of brain technologies through the lens of the knowledge developed in the Human Brain Project. This work has contributed to shaping policies on data governance, public engagement and neuroscience, but also as roadmaps for co-creating research in eBrains and build communities of users of the services offered by eBrains and the Human Brain Project. Our parting gift is an intellectual legacy spanning 10 years of publications and insights, a vision for ethics and society in brain research that is embracing human rights, the inclusion of citizens, vulnerable and marginalized groups, and that integrates diversity and gender as research topics. A full and free online training resource to build capacity for addressing ethical and social issues for society.
Excuse me. People don't even know that their mind has been neuronally recorded. They do not know that neuromodulation exists, and you're worried about gender and equality? Thought you're called the Human Brain Project. Sorry, I missed the rainbow. I think the bigger issue is how many people are either completely not or ill-informed, or there's something else going on here. With the citizens that you interviewed, were they your employees? Because everybody that I talked to and the people on the channel, we've had 2 years of, what the hell are you talking about? That's not a college textbook. Oh, everything says wearable. It's not real. You're so paranoid. What must it be like to wake up every day knowing the Human Brain Project has been busy at work since 2016, and here in 2023, ethics in society suddenly has to do with equity, whether you have a penis or a vagina? Why don't we start with, we have neuronal recording, we have neuromodulation, we have brain connectomes, maps of the wiring of your brain. I think if you told everyone that, instead of talking to just your employees, that maybe they wouldn't be so worried about their genitalia and how they use it, and maybe they'd be a little more worried about being able to, I don't know, make their own decisions without an AI influencing their brain connectome, rearranging their bioelectricity. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. It's bad enough as it is that nobody even knows. They don't even know about the nano. They still think that's a big farce. And you people are going to work and talking amongst yourselves about your genitals? It's equity. There's nothing equal about this. You call yourselves professionals at what? Obfuscation of intelligent information or intelligence information?
Mental benefit tested by more than 300 people in the Human Brain Project. And we provide a hands-on toolkit for proactive reflection on social and ethical issues in brain research.
God. Okay, I need to stop because otherwise I'm ahead of myself. I knew it. I'm like, what'd you do? Interview your own employees? Well, we need equity. Yeah, at the office. What about the people that you're working on that have no damn idea what you're doing? Jenna, shut up. We don't care. Okay. SciTech Daily. Unveiling invisible particles, physicists use water to detect neutrinos. For the very first time, the SNOW experiment has demonstrated the capability to detect neutrinos emitted by a nuclear reactor located more than 240 kilometers away using plain water. Neutrinos are subatomic particles that exhibit extremely weak interaction with matter. They originate from various types of radioactive decay, such as those occurring within the sun's core and in nuclear reactors. Furthermore, it's impossible to block neutrinos. They can effortlessly journey from the nuclear reactor's core to a distant detector and even penetrate the Earth itself. Therefore, to capture the minuscule signals from neutrinos, devices of immense size and high sensitivity are required. The SNOW experiment recently demonstrated that a detector filled merely with water is capable of detecting reactor neutrinos, despite the fact that the neutrinos create only tiny signals in the detector. Summary. Scientists long thought that the tiny signals, just 10 to 20 photons, created by a reactor neutrinos in a water detector would make it impossible to detect those neutrinos, particularly when the detector was far away from the reactor and the rate of the signals was very low. Excuse me. By ensuring that the detector was clean from even trace amounts of radioactivity and by having an energy threshold lower than any water detector ever built, SNOW was able to see these signals and show that they came from nuclear reactors at least 150 miles away. The measurement was still quite difficult as backgrounds, fake events, from residual radioactivity, and from neutrinos created in the atmosphere by cosmic rays need to be identified and removed. Water detectors have several advantages. They are inexpensive and can be very large, making them useful for monitoring reactors across international borders. Improvements to such monitoring include using what we'll be coming back to tomorrow, scintillators. Improvements to such using plain water with neutrinos monitoring, including using water-based liquid scintillators or loading the water with gadolinium, both of which would boost the signal size, are being tested by other collaborations. You know, I mean, it amazes me the amount of people who seem to be more than willing to do all this work quietly and secretly in the background. Y'all must feel smarter than everyone in the whole world, right? I mean, that's got to be what it is. Why else? I mean, why wouldn't you talk to people about what you're really doing? SNOW is a physics experiment designed to search for neutrinoless double beta decay with secondary measurements of proton-electron-proton (PEP), solar neutrinos, geoneutrinos from radioactive decays in the Earth and reactor neutrinos, under construction as of 2017. And the primary goal, same detector, Majorana fermion. Woo! Testing and construction. I'm just going to throw this in here in case you're curious about the actual detector because I went through a couple of them. I'm not, because I know that they love to lie about what they do in physics. The collaboration is investigating the use of grid resources to deliver the computing power needed by the experiment. The LHC computing grid used by the... Ooh, what are you connected to? The worldwide LHC, Large Hadron Collider Computing Grid, is an internal collaborative project that consists of grid-based computer network infrastructure incorporating 170 centers in 42 countries. Oh, of course you do. Dun, dun, dun. I'm just looking to see if there's a basic list. No, of course not. Okay, well, I'll throw this in here too. So I hope that you realize the different tools that they have available to themselves, because they have many. And I hope that you understand that the longer we're silent on this, because most people are, the more that this goes on, the worse it's going to get. Because it's not going to get any better until people understand, A, it's already here for 20 years. B, that's the nano.gov. B, synthetic biology is very real. I knew I had that paper up here somewhere. We'll come back to that later. And C, we have programmable matter, we have synthetic biology, we have xenobots that reproduce on their own, and that's not a maybe. Again, reproducing, I'm not going to play it for you, but I'm closing out this way. Reproducing xenobots, biological robots made from frog cells that can replicate by smushing loose cells into robots. And then I ask you, what's a xenomorph? Yeah, and they couldn't make it any prettier, and they weren't, and they're not going to be interested in something that doesn't have a long-ass tail, big teeth, massive claws, and an exoskeleton that's more metallic or synthetic. And this is what they've done. I watched shit like this when I was younger, and you'll say, well, you're just traumatized. No, I don't think so, but I think you're about to be. Mark 5:36, amen. I have not spoken very openly out of respect for Dr. Gur.